those individuals have those individuals have very rural conservative values. And your job is to defend them and argue for them and advocate on their behalf while you're there. And that's what I plan to do. You
Hey,
know,
Chuck.
I'm not going to say yes.
Uh, Chuck, let's repeat that. Let's go. Let's do that again, okay? And here's the reason why, Chuck. Your host wasn't able to hit the button the way he should have on his live stream. So the our guests are going to start coming in. My counter's starting to build. They didn't even hear the first 7 minutes, and that was one of the best openings I've ever had for the DPB show. Hey, sorry about that. It happens. The button didn't get pushed. You're looking at a split screen of Chuck Erickson and yours truly, DPB. I started the show off by talking about, of course, this crooked judge from, I call it Crook County, crooked judge from Crook County, who's ruled or made a decision, a ruling based on a case that was filed to get Trump off the ballot for the crime of insurrection. And so that's where we opened the show up. And then, of course, Chuck, I brought Chuck in because not only is he running for state representative of the 88th district, he is an attorney. So he has a lot of insight to legal matters. And we're going to cover all that today. But I just opened up by asking Chuck Erickson, running for the 88th state representative seat. Sorry, Chuck, you already answered this question. Now you're going to have to answer it again for our guests because the host wasn't able to get the live stream running correctly. So it was just you and me. And so it was nice to have you give me the answer to what is Chuck Erickson going to do day one, first term, going into Springfield when he wins the election.
Yeah, I mean, as I recall the question, what is Chuck Erickson going to do this first year as state representative? And my response was that I intend to represent the hardworking men and women of the 88th district who have a lot of conservative and rural values, and they deserve to have someone down there who will advocate for them and on their behalf and to constantly be engaged and involved and making sure that their viewpoints are heard in Springfield.
So, Chuck, you know where I'm going next with this. You're running in a state where there are 59 Demo. Oh, sorry, 58 or 78 Democrats. 78.
78,
Let me
yeah.
get my numbers right. 78. The great 78. 78 Democrat
Great
state reps.
78.
What's that?
The
The
great
great
78. It's just funny. It's just funny the way they would word it like that. Yeah, but
Chris
anyway.
Welch. It was good to hear Dennis Tipsword from the 105th state rep seat mention that Chris Welch refers to their caucus as the Great 78. So there's 78 Democrat state representatives in Springfield and the lonely 40 Republican state reps. Small but mighty, right? Is that what they say? Small but mighty, the lonely 40. So you're at this, you're running into this race where you win it and suddenly you're in the super majority or super minority. How do you walk around that? What do you do knowing what you've already witnessed as someone who stays abreast of these things? I know it's easy to say, yes, I'm going to represent my district. I'm going to go in there and do the best I can for them. But really, do Republicans truly have any leverage in Springfield?
Well, I mean, their leverage is limited. I mean, I think that's certainly true. But I do believe that, I serve on a county board that has 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans. And there are times when you can talk to a Democrat and actually get a reasonable response. Okay, and I believe there are some reasonable Democrats left, and I think you try to find common ground and you try to work with them. I always say this: you work with them when you can, you stand up to them when you must. And that's what you're always looking for opportunities. Even on the county board, you're looking for opportunities that say, hey, Where can we work together? You're not selling your soul. You're just trying to find out ways where you can work together on an issue and get something accomplished for the good of the people. Sometimes that requires you take a stand and you say, no, I'm not going to agree to that. That's not the right approach. And sometimes that's a stand you got to take. Your question was more about, what type of leverage do Republicans have? Well, I think that Republicans still have the leverage of that. They haven't eliminated free speech in this state yet.
Huh.
I mean,
Yet,
but
operative word yet. Well,
yeah,
they actually,
but I mean,
but they haven't. Go ahead.
well, it is still that battle. It's kind of like, it's those one-on-one conversations that you have with your neighbors and your coworkers. And, it's just like sometimes you know the analogy. You come in, you plant the seed, someone else comes along and waters it. Someone else comes along and waters it, and eventually they start to see things, they start to change their views and they start to see things your way. And they start and not and it's just quiet conversations with trying to change the hearts and minds of people. I think you understand the analogy I'm making there. When you're talking about Christ, I mean, someone comes in and plants a seed, someone else comes along and waters it, but eventually that person comes along to see the light and they see the truth. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen overnight. It'd be nice if you just had a conversation with someone and the next day they just, wow, I get it. But, sometimes you have to just keep having those conversations with people.
Well, and I think the one thing that I really see on the horizon for the Republican Party, I do believe that we have some younger people getting involved, running for state rep, state senate. Uh, Obviously, on the statewide races, there's such a disparity, and I know that we're working on that because it starts at the precinct committeeman level. That I truly believe, and you tell me, Chuck, what you believe the solution is to this, because it's been decades that we have operated without truly any real voice in the state house or the state senate. We've been at odds because Mike Madigan controlled the House for 37 years, the longest sitting state or the longest sitting speaker of a state house in in all of our history in the United States. No one has held the state house. Now, of course, we know about Mitch McConnell and his stepping away. He held the U.S. Senate in a leadership position of some fashion for a very, very long time, 40 years. 40 years. So, Chuck, you've got that nuance, the fact that Republicans really haven't had a voice in Springfield. We really haven't, and we can track back to 2001. Actually, 1999 was the last time we had a surplus in the state of Illinois. 2001, we went to $4 billion in unfunded liabilities. And we know that that has accelerated over the past 23 years. We are somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on whose numbers you believe, from 136 billion to $300 billion in unfunded liabilities. Basically, the state of Illinois can't get out of the hole they're in. Now, JB is out there shouting from the rooftops how well we're doing financially and how all of that is because he's come along and has managed to put the state back on a good footing, which he never talks about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and it's not JB. I think he's a few pounds light of the 800-pound gorilla, but that was terrible. Shame on me. Shame on
Yeah,
me
I have
for
no
making that
comment.
comment. Yeah, shame on me for. I usually don't say things like that, but Chuck, I'm finding myself losing patience because he just did his State of the State. Did you have an opportunity to watch his State of the State address?
I did not know. I did not get to watch
Well,
it.
Well, I know you're campaigning, and that takes precedence over everything else because right now you're limited. Because, as I always tell our audience, it is voting season. If you haven't voted, get to wherever you're at in Illinois, get to your voting center. Most counties have the county clerk's office, the government center. Here in McLean County, we have a couple locations. We have the government center, and then we have Eastland Mall. But you can go vote. You can go and cast your vote right now. In fact, if you went today or tomorrow, you can still vote for Trump, which is another topic we're going to get to here in a minute with Chuck. But Chuck, the state of the state address with JB Pritzker, he basically came out, rinse and repeat, touting that, he's balanced the budget every year since he's been the governor. The state is growing. The whole EV thing. I know that he was in Normal, Illinois yesterday at Heartland Community College for the the launching of the building that was designated for technology, specifically electric vehicles. But JB continues to tout the same thing. But one thing that he never addresses, Chuck, is that unfunded liability that is sucking the life out of taxpayers here in Illinois. And that's kind of what I think my question was, Chuck, to you. You're going in, you've never served in the state house, and these things are real. I mean, you're not voting on a budget. You won't vote on a budget until May of 2025. So you don't get sworn in until, I think, January, February, right? February is when you would be sworn in.
Well, I think it's January. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're sworn in at the beginning of next year after you win, because there is no general election for Chuck Erickson, right? The primary is the only opponent that you have. There's not someone who's filed in the 88th to run for state rep.
No, there's no Democrat has filed. They could slate someone.
Yeah.
I mean, they could slate someone in later in the year, but that's up to them.
So I guess that's my question.
I mean, it you froze up on me.
Oh, did I freeze up on you? My wife is saying something. I was wondering about that because my comment section, I have viewers in the. Yes, everything's moving food. But my question is that, Chuck, lay out for our audience, for the people of McLean County, DeWitt County, Piatt County, and Macon County, how Chuck Erickson is going to be an impact representative. Because right now, Chuck, as you said, this is decades and decades of failed policies, failed government. However, if you listen to, like I said, JB, it's not failed. So what says you?
I mean, I don't know that impact is always I'm going down there and I'm going to be the loudest guy screaming in the general way. Okay, there does come a time, there's a time and place where you need to yell and scream, pound the table. I'm not saying that's not necessary at times. There also are times when you need to go talk to someone and have a conversation with them and try to see if you can get something done. So there's both. And, being on the county board, I've had that experience doing that. I mean, there's times when I've had to take a stand and everybody attacked me. There's times when I've had to work across the aisle and we've got something done, and you got to know when to do which. But the impact I think you have, I think the Republicans have got to understand, and it's like we tend to view everything that if we don't go down there and complete the Hail Mary pass, and we give up, we take our ball, we go home, we don't want to play anymore. Okay, well, that's not the approach. I mean, it used to be like, in Big Ten football, it's 3 yards and a cloud of dust, and 3 yards and a cloud of dust, and 3 yards and a cloud of dust. I mean, it won't always be pretty and it won't always be quick, but the impact is you keep pushing, you keep pushing, you keep pushing, and you keep pushing until you see change. And that sometimes is in increments, and sometimes it's in a great big, it's a great big dive. But if you go down there and you say, well, Chuck Erickson was down there the first his first year, and he didn't cut taxes 100%. Well, no, but let's say he was able to make otherwise bad legislation better. He was able to go down there and talk to someone about, hey, do you really want to do it that way? I mean, you know this, and I think we forget this sometimes. Sometimes it is about having that conversation with people. It is. And people say, oh, the hell with that stuff. You don't have conversations with people. You just go down and you tell them the way it needs to be done. Yes, there's a time for that too. Okay.
Well,
But, there's,
and I'm a firm believer in that. I can go and talk to anyone. However, Chuck, I guess my concern is at this point, um, I used to think all government was local. That's what we've heard for years and years. But unfortunately, I believe all government, all the way down to the county board and township and everything else, school boards, is now global because of the global influence. I don't know if we can change minds. I'd like to believe we can. There's legislation in House Bill 4876 from what is her name? Anna Stava Murray or whatever, hyphenated. She's proposed a bill that basically takes away parents' rights in so many aspects. And it's right now in it's in committee. It's in the Judicial Committee. And so I hear what you're saying, Chuck, because I'm a firm believer that I want to walk into a room and I want to have conversations with people. I want to know where they stand. My fear though, Chuck, right now is we have gone over that cliff. Most of the people that are representing on the other side of the aisle, and I don't care where you're at, including the county board, because we saw that with the 10-10 gridlock that we have on our county
Mhm.
board. They are weaponizing the county board, and they're trying to infiltrate school boards, library boards, whatever they can do. They're trying to take over, and why not, right? Because they have run the table, as Speaker Welch says, we're the great 78. Never before in the history of Illinois have they had 78 House representatives with a supermajority. So I guess that's my point: is changing hearts. I'd like to think that can be done, but there are people that have gone before you. Adam Nienberg, who now is running for I think this is his fourth term. His first term, he proposed legislation to audit the state. And of course, Auditor General Frank Montino gave him a call and said, do you realize that would cost upwards of $750 million to have a forensic audit of the books in Illinois? And likely, as Frank says, he understands. I believe Democrats understand where things are at, but they also believe the solution is to just keep spending.
I know, but you have that same type of dynamic sometimes on the county board where you as the elected official propose something to the professional administrator, and the professional administrator returns to you and says, well, you can't really do it that way. And you're just like, well, why can't we? And let's think outside the box and think how we can get there. Because I mean, let's take the taxes in McLean County. I mean, when I've been on the board, we've kept the tax rate flat for years. Now the pressure is, well, Chuck, because we kept the tax rate flat for years, we need to spend money on these things and those things and this and that and this and that. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, no, we need to prioritize. We need to prioritize what our spending ought to be, because you always look at the taxpayer, some endless bucket that you can just keep taking from. I mean, that sounds to me like what Adam Nienberg was running into, is that, you go down there with this mindset that, hey, things got to change. Things have got to be done differently. And then you propose it, and you know what the roadblock is? It's the administrators.
Yeah.
You can't do it that way. We've never done it that way before. Why would we do it that way in the future? I mean, that's the way things have never been done. And so, he did the right thing. He proposed it and he got pushback on it. And that's what you get when you get into government right now. The administrators always push back on you, saying, well, you just can't do it that way. So your solution is we just keep doing it the way we're doing it and then hoping for a different result. I mean, I know that may sound naive to some and it may sound simplistic, but it really is what government is. It's that constant push against the resistance the administrators will keep giving you because they do give it to you.
Well, and the other thing that Adam ran into his first term as a state rep was that, and I guess this is his third term because I remember that Darren held that seat that in the 109th when the 109th district was the 109th around Effingham, but Mike Madigan, Adam had the I guess I don't even know what you call it. He was there. Adam was there as an elected representative for Mike Madigan. Of course, Mike Madigan left after his first term. That's a whole nother story. But I guess the thing, Chuck, the administration or the administrators, the agency positions, because Illinois has the esteem ranking of having more units of government than any other state in the union. We are the sixth largest state based on population, but we have more governmental units than any other state. I mean, you have Texas has a half of the units of government with almost 3 times the population. Florida, twice the amount of population, and they have not even, I don't even think 30% of the units of government that we have. But something you said, and I find this interesting. You can propose this legislation, obviously, as Adam did, and it won't get out of the committee. It won't see the light of day. The legislation will never make it because it's not a Democrat bill. JB rough shots and basically they get legislation put through no different than this Anna Maria Stavi Murray hyphenated name. I should probably give her respect and look it up, but not based on the bill that she's proposed. It is so horrific, but they will push through legislation. JB will, of course, sign it into law. And then what happens? JB signed into law a gun ban. And how is that fared for him? JB mandated through executive order that everyone should be wearing masks. Not everybody was wearing masks unless you were above the Mason-Dixon line, because you get down, the further you went south of Chicago, the less you saw as far as people complying with JB's tyrannical ways. I guess you can propose legislation. You have law, but we have actors, pretenders in the state house that continue to
have
put
to do that
forth
sometimes,
legislation.
even at a local level, because sometimes when you have an idea that, listen, we're not going to do it that way, and the administrator has a different idea that this is the way it's got to be done, I mean, I always tell new county board members, I mean, be careful what you say to the administration, okay? Yes, you need to ask them questions. Yes, you need to find out sometimes what they're thinking. But if you let those people back there know what you're thinking too much, they plot and scheme on how to beat you. Okay, I mean, they'll just plot and scheme on how to beat you. I mean, it's ridiculous. When did the resolution against spending taxpayer dollars on immigration, I found out that the state's attorney had already given the resolution to the Democrats. I'm like, what rule says that's the way it's supposed to be? They're not supposed to get it until the agenda comes out. Well, we got to work with them. Oh, no, you're trying to work against me is what you were trying to do. Okay, so they could organize, which they did, and they sent 40 to 50 people to a county board meeting. It happens at the county level. It's going to happen at the state level. They'll plot and scheme on how to beat you. You got to figure out your ways to plot and scheme and go around them, or plot and scheme to do this and do it strategically and do it tactically. And if you can't get it past the administration, you just take it like Trump would do or Reagan would do. Fine. You guys aren't going to listen to me. I'm just going to take the case to the people, and I'm going to tell the people to speak up. And sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but that's what you've got to do. I mean, get the people to speak up. They're fed
So,
up with it.
so Chuck, the people of Illinois, what do you think are the three biggest, most immediate issues that are impacting the taxpayers, the residents of Illinois right now?
Well, I think one is the immigration issue. I think it honks, for lack of a better way to say it. It upsets a lot of people that I have spent my life paying into this system and paying for things, and I got to pay a huge deductible, and a legal immigrant can come in and just get, healthcare, and then it's like it's crazy that people don't find, how is that fair? My taxpayer dollar should be used for us, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the system as we continue to go forward. And as you recall, the mayor of New York said that our hearts are endless, but our resources are not. Well, why didn't you think of that before you declared to be a sanctuary city? I mean, yes, we'd love to help you, but we don't have the resource. I can see you might want to say something here. I can't tell, but did you want to say
No,
something?
I'm letting you. You've got the
And then the
pulpit.
second one would be property taxes. I mean, we got to find a way to try to get property taxes reduced. It's crazy. I mean, when I'm out there talking to people, a lot of people are just saying, I'm just waiting until I can retire. Or as soon as I can retire, I'm getting out of here.
They're
I
leaving.
mean, it's just, I'm
They're
getting out of
leaving the
here.
state.
And it's
Yeah.
just sad to hear. I had another guy call me up, said, he goes, I don't even think Republicans want to engage in the fight anymore. They just have given up. They don't want to fight anymore. They just want to wait for their time and move on. I mean, it's just like, well, that's not the right approach either, but
So you got the immigration, obviously. I can't remember. It was SB not 31, but it declared, maybe it was SB 31, Senate Bill 31. I always get my Senate bills from days gone by mixed up. But so we are officially a sanctuary state. That brings up another issue about countywide, how some counties are implementing non-sanctuary status. But then you have the taxpayer reducing the tax burden to the residents of Illinois. What would be your third one? What do you think the third issue would be? Is it education or is it crime?
well, I think right now in the 88th, it's probably guns. I mean, I think a lot of people are fed up that why should I even have to? I'm not a criminal. Why do I have to register my gun? I haven't committed a crime, and every time a crime is committed, you turn to me and accuse me of being a criminal. I mean, I that's what I think it is. I mean, they're just people are just, this gun registration is
But they're
silly. I
not
mean, I have
complying.
registered.
But they're
Yeah,
not
they're not
complying.
complying. And one thing, one guy came up to me and goes, with the county with the highest, I don't know if it's true, maybe if it's true, the county in Illinois with the highest registration of guns is McLean County.
Hmm.
It's like 1.8%, don't get me wrong, I mean, but
Yeah.
it's still,
Well,
I
there's
mean, I don't know if
102,
that's,
102 counties. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, and sometimes I think McLean County Republicans have given up the fight. I mean, it's just like, why? I mean, why would you ever throw in the towel to these people? But I mean, it is what it is. We can't throw in the towel. It always, immigration's it's a big issue right now. Taxation's a big issue. I think guns are a big issue. I
It,
mean, but and we're all hoping that the U.S. Supreme Court will instruct Mr. Easterbrook on the Seventh Circuit that he interpreted Thomas's and Scalia, or not Scalia, Thomas's and um, the other justices on the court, that interpretation wrong. Easterbrook had to do a temper tantrum because they would never name him to the Supreme Court. So he made sure he let Thomas and the other ones know that he didn't think their opinion was right. You know,
well, and speaking of
by
judges,
getting
no, go
yeah.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I mean, it was Easterbrook on the Seventh Circuit that basically spearheaded to try and kill what that judge in the Southern District did, the federal judge in the Southern District. And, I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, and now you've got a Chicago judge who,
Nice pivot, Chuck. You were that's where I was going to go. I wanted to find out your opinion on that.
They're just making decisions. It's just like, your job as a judge is not to make law, it's to interpret law. Okay. You just don't get to make things out of whole cloth and then say this is the law, and when you're sitting there trying to say, well, wait a second, let's look at the 14th Amendment. What was the purpose really of the 14th? Really was the Confederacy, when someone actually engaged in an armed rebellion against the United States. I mean, that's what happened. Someone actually engaged in one. Well, that's not what happened in January. I think it was January 6th. I can't remember the exact date.
You can't remember if it's January 6th or not?
Yeah, well, I think it wasn't January 6th. I don't know.
Well, come on, Chuck. It's everything we've heard is J6. They're the J6ers. Yours truly knows what date it was because I was there.
I never pay any. I get tired of paying attention to them and their little sayings. I mean, they're just so silly. But I mean, and nobody, to my knowledge, you might know, has ever been charged with insurrection. Okay,
no, not today, Chuck. I'm still waiting. That was January 6th of 2021.
And neither has Trump ever been charged with insurrection. Yet, for some reason, you can find that there was insurrection and you can throw someone off the ballot. Even Bill Maher had addressed this, and Bill Maher's a liberal. It's getting to the point where he even said, I don't know that I want to live in a country where every time the president leaves office, the other party tries to prosecute him.
Well, I mean, it isn't that
because if that's going to be the norm, we're a banana republic at this point.
Well, I think we're definitely a police state at this time. I encouraged all of our listeners here at the DPB Show. Thank you for tuning in. I do want to get to that point, Chuck. We are a police state. Mike Benz was on Tucker Carlson. He mapped it out. He was with the State Department. You've got to go like him on Twitter, like me too. I mean, I want you to go out to X, Rumble, YouTube, at the DPB Show. Definitely smash the like button, subscribe. This is the content I'm going to continue to bring. We're on the McLean County Republican page. Well, we're not officially live there yet. I've got to do some behind the scenes. But Chuck, we are a banana republic. I believe that. In front of the Supreme Court right now is the immunity case where Trump is seeking to get a ruling to say, can you continue to go after presidents, who have in the duties that they have are obviously going to put themselves in some situations where after they get out of office, there's going to be, of course, people that bring cases against them.
Yeah, I mean, it sets bad precedent, but the Democrats have never cared about the precedent it sets. They only care about the here and now. I mean, they don't care about the long-term issues that they create. I mean, I don't want to say we're a banana republic. I still have belief in the rule of law and that there are still enough good judges on the federal bench that will stop this nonsense. But the courts really are people's last revenue to go to when they feel like they've been wronged. And if the courts are just going to sit there and just apply leftism, I mean, it creates an issue for this country. It creates a huge issue.
And I know you've been very busy with campaigning. If you get an opportunity, his name is Mike Benz. He lays out the argument of how these agencies and everything was sewn into what he calls the blob, which we used to say was the deep state. But that's when I mentioned that all government anymore is not local, it's global, because of the influence. They have control. They control. When Democrats refer to an existential threat to democracy, they're not talking about the people in the Constitution. They're talking about the institutions. They're talking about the union system through our education system. They're talking about government. They're talking about banks. They're talking about mainstream media. That if you make a comment against mainstream media, that suddenly you're deep sixed with any public comment, even though you open the show up by saying, "I think we still have the First Amendment in the freedom of speech." But do we really? And speaking of that, I want to show you some freedom of speech, Chuck, real quick.
All
Look
right.
at that. Look at that right there in the corner. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that on your screen, right? Katrina
She
Peterson.
is that cat? Is she telling you that you rock?
No, she says you rock DPB. Look at that. But then how about that? That's somebody I know personally. She says the two best guys I know fighting for our children's children. Chuck and you need to come down and do a Nashville brewery tour. Well, I like to travel with Chuck, and yes, we would brewery tour in Nashville with Hannah Kate. Chuck, there you go. You got an invitation.
There we go.
Marilyn,
Yes, all right. I took a
Marilyn Hump.
picture of it, so I remember she can't deny she said it.
Marilyn Humphrey says Illinois has changed too much under Pritzker and not in a good way. Of course, that's what we thank you, Marilyn, for chiming in. And then Kat comes back and says Illinois legislators currently are defanged and they might as well not show
As
up.
well not show up.
And let's see, it's too far gone. Move to a red county and make it redder. I agree. There's something to be said for that. Ryan McKenzie of the Ryan Mack Show just coming in was show prepping. Hey, Chuck. So there you go.
Hey.
Hold on. I've got a couple more. Hey, look at that. McLean County Republican Party watching. Look at Chuck. You've got commenter after commenter. Yes, this is the main concern. All the excessive illegals, putting them first over legal Illinois taxpayers and also the crazy Safety Act. Yes, how can we forget about the Safety Act and what that's like?
Can't forget about it either.
Marilyn goes on to say, Marilyn, she's very lively on the comment, but you know what? Agree. Yes, we're living in a police state. Missouri, no doubt about it. I got it. If Biden gets another term, it will be finalized then. I have to agree. But I just wanted to get to some of the commenters because, Chuck, I can't do this show without it, but it shows that you're talking to the viewers of the DPB show. Those are your voters. And it is so cool to have these conversations because technology allows us to do this. And these are the conversations I think you're talking about we have to have more of. And when Chuck Erickson wins the 88th seat and goes down to Springfield, I believe Chuck has got the wherewithal. I've known you for a very long time. And I've watched you navigate that. I've seen you do it on the county board. I can hear you as far as your abilities, but with the changing zeitgeist, the change of the times, I think that is the biggest thing that we confront. If I were to say,
no, I get it.
Well, I mean, when we talk about the biggest issues, I get that almost 2% of McLean County residents are legal registered gun owners. And by all means, if I lived in Illinois and I wasn't a registered gun owner, I think you're crazy. I think you're taking your life in your own, you're taking your life for granted because it is the crime through the Safety Act. We haven't necessarily seen that in McLean County, or have we, Chuck? In the 80th district, have you seen a rise in crime?
I haven't seen any statistics, so I don't know off the top of my head. But the Safety Act's one of those things where they swung the pendulum so far. Here's what I hope doesn't happen. It doesn't take some tragedy to realize that, hey, you let that person go. That person went out and did something. We need to swing that pendulum back. Hopefully common sense will propel us to swing it back the other direction. But sometimes it takes an adverse event to make it come back the other way. I don't know if that I don't know if I'm explaining that very clearly, but I hope you get what I'm saying. And
Well, and I do, and I think this ties in that once you've gone so far to the left, which everything about JB, even though he professes that mega Republicans are extremists, right wingers, they're the ones who are extreme. JB, under JB's rule, um, we have gone so far with every aspect of legislation. In fact, I don't think JB obviously is trying to position himself for something larger. I do believe he'd love to be president of the United States, but he's positioned himself that way, or positioned himself there because of his legislation, his tyrannical ruling during the COVID crisis, where he locked down his state for 44 consecutive months. No one else in the United States was locked down or under executive orders longer than Illinois. How did that fare for JB? Most people weren't complying. JB flies in the face of the Constitution, and people, obviously his base, continue to grovel at him and think that they're enamored with him. But we have swung so far to the left that coming back in Illinois, what does that look like?
well, I mean, I know people don't want to hear it this way. I know. I would like to just say you go down to Springfield, you throw a Hail Mary, you complete it, and it's all done. It's all back to back. It's back to normal again. But that's not typically the way politics works. You chip and chip and chip and chip and chip away. And your desire to fight has to be stronger than their desire to resist. And you keep fighting until you overcome their resistance. I mean, that's what you got to do.
Well,
And, that's what people have got to do.
it is a
Because
fight,
they're
Chuck.
going to resist. That's what they do.
Well, it's more than
I know.
resist.
I don't think it's naive. I just think that people have gotten to a point where if I can't change it all at once, I'm just going to quit and take my ball and go home. Well, it don't work that way. I mean, you did. It's politics. You have to keep punching and punching away till you get where you want to be.
Well, and I think that you're somebody that has stood up as a Republican leader. You were the voted chair of the party here in McLean County twice, correct?
Yes, in 2014 and 2016.
You've sat on we've covered the ground that with the county board. You've been a longstanding member, county board member, going on. You'll finish up your 13 and a half years. I think you still finish this term out.
Yeah, I finished the term out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've been fighting for the Republican way for many years.
Sometimes against Republicans.
Well, and so I wanted to mention this, and it failed me a little bit. I want to go back in reverse for a second. So this suit that was brought up, that Trump was an insurrectionist and needed to be kicked off the ballot, there was a former judge who was a Republican who was party to this lawsuit. Are you familiar with that? This judge that I think
Is
he's
that
a
the
retired
Kankakee
judge.
guy?
Yes, it is. Yes. So
Yeah, yeah, I think there was a guy. Yeah.
yeah, so he's part of this
Cutting
lawsuit
out
that
on
was.
me.
Yeah, and I know we're buffering a little bit. I hope that that's not on both ends, but I know you were freezing up a little bit. But for the most part, it's been pretty good. I don't know what is happening. It probably is because yours truly, DPB, didn't launch the Go live stream early enough at 4:00. If you are just tuning in, joining us here at the DPB show, yes, we have our moments when we don't get things right 100%. But I do have Chuck Erickson. He is on the show for the entire hour. I want to give him the opportunity to really tell you what is going to happen when Chuck Erickson is the new representative of the 88th district. But Chuck, so this lawsuit was brought by a Republican who just is an anti-Trumper. When we start looking at coalescing around the 40 House representatives, the 18 state senators, how do we build a true caucus where I get it. Republicans, you put 11 Republicans in the room, you're going to have 11 different opinions. It's different than having the Zyborg Democrat Party, where you put 11 Democrats in the room and you can't tell the difference between any of them because they all speak and say the same thing. Republicans aren't that way. So how do we bring the Republican Party to a consensus?
Well, I know you don't
stumped
want
you.
to
I know I
hear it,
stumped
but
you,
I
Chuck.
mean, but it's just, I mean, didn't you do what Trump does? I mean, if you guys aren't going to listen, I'll just take my case to the people and I'll start getting people elected to think more like I think. I mean, if I have to start doing primaries, then I'll have to start primarying people. I mean, that's what Trump does. It's like, listen, I'm going to try to put as many people in that I can that agree with me. And if I have to primary you, then that's what happens.
Good answer, Chuck.
It's always been
That's been your best answer so far on the DPB show, Chuck. I like that. I
Well, I
like
just
that
want to know,
personally because I'm the guy wearing the Trump quarter zip with the Darren Bailey, who is constantly being confronted election after election by the establishment Republican Party, has never let Darren breathe, ever, for a state House rep race, for a state Senate race, for even the governor. You mean, they were so convinced that they could spend $50 million with candidate Richard Irvin and swipe the gubernatorial nomination away from Darren Bailey. And now Darren's running the congressional or the 12th congressional district of Illinois. And sure enough, in comes Mike Johnson. I don't know if you saw the CNN article. I think I sent it to you, but here you have the CNN article, and it tells exactly what Johnson wanted. He wanted leverage, and he went to ask Trump for leverage. And of course, Trump's in the middle of a lawsuit that's going to require that he come out of a pocket with a substantial amount of money just to move it to an appeal, which I didn't think legally you could extort the defendant in a case like that. But you know more of the legalese than I do. But I mean, you've got you yourself know this, right? I mean, your opponent right now is supported by the House Republican organization.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, what do? You can't sit there and complain about it. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, that's not fair." I mean, you just got to figure out how to work around it. I mean, that's what you got to do. Because I never talk about that because I don't know what good it does me. I mean, to me, the issue would be, all right, Chuck, don't sit around and feel sorry for yourself. Go out and figure out a way to take your case to the people and get them to settle the verdict.
So door
That's
to
what you
door,
got to do.
Chuck, a lot
Well,
of
I mean,
doors.
it's all the things it's all the things you do in a campaign. I mean, it's all the things that you do. I mean, it is what it is. Life is what it is. It isn't always fair, but but you just got to keep fighting till you get where you want to go.
Well, I do like your answer. I think it is one of the best answers because that's what Trump decided to do. He said, if you guys don't want to go in this direction, which really Trump is the anti-corruption presidential candidate. And he proved that through the first term that he had. I do believe that we need more people of substance that stand on moral integrity and ethics. And I know you to be a moral, ethical person, Chuck. Um, Obviously, I think that if anybody tracked back into the land of social media, and especially going to Chuck Erickson's social media pages or my pages, you can see that Chuck and I have done many things together. Not only go to Cub games, but we went to Jamaica together, and I think that's the key to life is getting more people with
until I got
good.
sick, and then I was like,
That's the story that I wasn't going to bring that up, Chuck. That we
that's
barely got
right.
Chuck back
It's a
to the
whole nother
United
show.
States.
I mean,
That's a whole nother show. And it is. I still have pictures of Chuck in the airport. He was not faring well. And it's a lot of interesting stories. Chuck, I mean, once again, I'm going to give you an opportunity just to give your elevator speech, whatever it is that you call it. I mean, I think you're a very genuine person. So here you have it. You've got the stage. Tell people what you'd like them to know about Chuck Erickson, and then let them know how they can get in contact with you and be part of your campaign. Because Chuck, I think we're down to what, 22 days until election day. We're still
20 days. 20
are
days.
we
Yeah.
20 days?
But who's
20 days.
counting? Who's counting? I mean, no one's counting, are we? But I mean,
I
yeah.
hope
I
we're
mean,
counting.
but
Chuck.
yeah, we're getting down there. But
That's right. It
it
is
is what it
February
is.
29th.
Yes, it is. It's a leap year. But
Oh,
I
wait a
mean,
second, Chuck.
I'm running because
Before you get into your whole campaign, I want to wish a very happy birthday to one of the only people I know that's been born on in a leap year, and that's Tracy Haas Riley. She is a real estate agent and a personal trainer here in town. Today is her birthday. So she gets to celebrate her birthday every 4 years? Is that how that works? If you're born on a leap year? You celebrate it only every 4
I
years?
don't know what they do.
All right. Well, anyhow,
I think I'd
Tracy
use the
Haas
28th
Riley,
or the one.
happy birthday to Tracy. But Chuck, go ahead. Tell
Happy birthday.
everyone about your campaign.
Now, the reason I'm running is I take the view that my experience is I have more experience. I've shown more courage. I've been a consistent conservative when the rubbers had to meet the road. It's easy to say you're conservative. It's easy to campaign as a conservative. I even tell people who are getting ready to run for office, it's easy to run as a conservative. It's a whole lot harder to do it when you have to vote as one. Okay, because that's when everybody's watching, and that's when everybody's paying attention. And when you've got a vote like one, that's when the rubber meets the road. And I have a record of voting like a conservative, and so I'm proud of my record. And that same courage and that same confidence that the county board residents of District 10 have given me. They should trust me, and you should trust me that I'll still be that same conservative down in Springfield. So, and I have a
All right.
proven record of doing it. So that's kind
So
of my
how
view. Oh, you can
how
send
do
me
they get in contact?
Chuck Erickson, ChuckEricksonConservative.com or Chuck Erickson for Illinois on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, so ChuckEricksonConservative.com. I'm trying to quickly pull that up here because I have to work the buttons. Chuck Erickson Conservative. That I didn't get quite Chuck Erickson in there. Let me see if I can get it.
Gotta
Erickson.
spell Erickson right. Yeah, CKSON.
Yeah. So I'm gonna search that real quick, see if I pull it up. ChuckEricksonConservative.com. Oh, look at that. Okay, let me come back to the StreamYard, Chuck. Chuck, I'm going to show you something very fancy. This doesn't happen a lot, but I'm going to share the screen with us, and let's see if I can get it up here, Chuck. Every now and then, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. Let's see here. Add to stage. There it is, Chuck. How about that?
There you go.
Was that fancy or not? I'm going to put it down in the comment section too.
Yeah, that is good.
So everybody can see it. Is that Betsy coming in to tell you got to get going?
No, someone came in and told me they're getting ready to leave the office.
Conservative.com. Chuck Erickson. I don't think I have to spell it out any more than that. You'll know that that's Chuck Erickson's website. I just put it into the comment section. Chuck Erickson, conservative.com. Did I spell everything right? So there you go, Chuck.
All right,
so that's how
appreciate
people
that.
can get a
Thank
hold.
you.
So this is they can reach out, become part of the campaign in the final push of the last 20 days. Chuck, how do you think you're faring out there?
Well, I mean, I think I'm doing well. I think we're getting a great reception wherever I go. Had a lot of people tell me they voted for me, and I appreciate that. And so I feel cautiously optimistic. We'll just say it that way.
Well, as you should, Chuck. Well, I will tell you this. Obviously, we're at the end of the hour. I do appreciate you always coming on. The next time that hopefully I see you on the screen, maybe I can have Kat Peterson in here and we can relive the cigars with Chuck. Try to rekindle the cigars and the coughing
Smoke-filled
and
room,
the
you know.
smoke-filled room. Um, but no, Chuck, I mean, I will look forward to having you on after the March 19th, and then, it's time to get down and figure out how we are going to restore this state. Because I think, Chuck, you're not moving out of state anytime soon. Yours truly,
Nope.
I've tried to find where God would like to take me, and he keeps leading me right back to the heart of Illinois. And it's tough. It's tough to leave your home. Illinois is our home, Chuck. And if your
It
home's not
is.
worth fighting for, then what is worth fighting for?
What is worth writing for? Yeah. Yep.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. Always good to have you in studio, especially if the new studio here. This isn't the city's 92.9 studio, but the DPB studio. Um, I will look forward to keeping apprised of what happens in the 88th district. Of course, if you would like to help Chuck out in his campaign, the website is Chuck Erickson conservative.com. Always appreciate you, Chuck. I'll
Thank
let
you.
you
Thanks
go
for
cut
having
you
me.
loose. Nope, you're welcome. We will talk to you soon.
Mhm.
All right. That was Chuck Erickson running for the 88th district here in Illinois, 88th House District, I should say. Yes, it's been a long day. It started, as I said at the beginning of the show, this part of the reason I neglected to go live, and not until 4:07. I apologize if you were on in the waiting room and then suddenly got a notification. That's because your host, yours truly here, did not hit the go live button. My mistake. Rough day, as I shared on the front end, that got up 4:30 this morning, went all the way to Cincinnati, came back just in the nick of time to get Chuck his link to get on with you guys. Hey, I can't do it without you. I appreciate you. I know that you know that. Please go out and like and share at the DPB show. Keep building the audience and keep going with the conversation. I so appreciate Marilyn Humphreys, Ryan McKenzie, Kat, Peterson, my daughter, Hannah, Kathleen. Always the comments are great. It's what generates the conversation about how we can truly be the land of the free, the home of the brave. We've got to restore Illinois. When Illinois is restored, our nation's going to be restored. We cannot have any weak link in a constitutional republic. And Illinois is in the ground zero for bringing back restoration. I know it can be done. Yes, we've gotten so far off track, but yet the best is yet to come. I truly believe that. As far as the Trump saga, stay with us. I had an opportunity to go out to Darren Bailey's page. He did a little video, Facebook video last night. As soon as he heard the news, I actually shared the Fox News breaking news about the judge in Crook County, the Crook County judge who decided to kick Trump off the ballot. It's not going to stay. Think about this. I've already voted for Trump. Many of you have already voted for Trump. Trump is on the ballot. They're not going to get him off the ballot. There's no way. How can you interfere with an election? When we talk about election interference, we know about 2020. We know that led to J6. We know that led to a lot of craziness that's currently going on. But when you look at what the definition of election interference is, it is paramount that we know that a county judge who rules to eliminate political competition off the ballot, when we talk about voter suppression, I'm sure I don't consent. I don't consent to one judge ruling on who I can and can't vote for. And I hope you guys feel the same way. Hey, get involved. Please go out, become a precinct committee person, help in the campaign, help with Chuck Erickson's campaign or any other candidate in your district, help in county board races. This is how we mobilize the people. We have to fortify within our counties, every county downstate. I'm not saying we're ever going to turn Cook County red. I think when Illinois is restored, it will be a red county, but we need to fortify the counties that we live in. That's where we start at where, like Chuck just said, where the rubber meets the road. We've got to start getting involved. We know it starts at the precinct committee level. Get involved, help out, become an election judge. I know Kathy Michael, I don't know if the deadline has approached yet, but our county clerk here in McLean County, go to your county clerk's office, find out, do they need election judges? There's always an opportunity to be a poll watcher, be part of the process, understand what's going on. Don't believe what the government tells you. In fact, I don't believe what any of them tell us, whether it's the media, whether it's even representatives. I want to go out and do my own research. Like I said, one of the best ones to go look at is this Mike Benz on Twitter. He was on Tucker Carlson's show. Dan Bongino covered him. I mean, this guy is hitting on so many levels of what is happening. And that's at Mike Benz, BENZ, cyber. The guy has broken it down, lays it out, what currently is going on. I differ, though, with Chuck. We are in a police state. There's no question about it. Now it's time to rise up. It's time to take back our constitutional republic. Hey, until next time, I know there's going to be a lot out there. I appreciate you guys. Peace be with you. As I say often, I love you, but God loves you more. Until next time, take care.